Welcome back to another episode of Buckle Up with Simon and Brian, an ultra running conversation. How are you doing this afternoon, Simon?
I'm doing great. I just flew back from a work trip yesterday night, super late, and we're heading out very, very soon already. I signed up last minute for a race in Arizona, Saddle 100 miles. So that's how good my recovery has been since Tour des Géants. My knees are absolutely fine and normal. But Brian, you have Moab 240 coming up soon, and I'm curious to hear how are your knees?
Moab is in um, 8 days from today, from recording this. Um, and my knees are great. My knees have never been better because I am tapering. I am resting up. I am running a much less. And I'm a little stir crazy. I'm not a great taper. Are you? Well, I don't know. I don't even know if you taper, Simon, but
I
I get a
do.
little
I
stir crazy.
taper or recover. That's the only thing I do nowadays. I never actually train. It's just taper and recovery. They feel pretty much the same. It's just one of them I feel bad, one of them I feel good.
So I'm in a taper and I am feeling pretty good and healthy, all things considered. Just a little antsy, and maybe I'll still get a couple workouts in here and there, but mostly just for mindfulness more than anything, just to kind of break up the monotony in my own head. Um,
I'm curious, Brian. Do you feel NC when you're in recovery? For example, after Mohab 240, do you think you'll be NC there?
no, not antsy at all.
You know, because I feel that the longer we race, the longer the recovery, and I think our guests they will probably have a few things to say about recovery after a long effort.
40 days, Simon. 40 days. That's a long time to be moving forward. And that's exactly what Tara Dower did on the Appalachian Trail. 2,197 miles. She went southbound from Maine to Georgia and in a record time. She broke the boys' record, she broke the girls' record, she broke all the records. And I think the next nearest effort was Carl Sables, and it was 13 hours slower. So a significant amount of time. I guess maybe not in 40 days, but 13 hours is 13 hours, and anyway you dice it up, super impressive.
Yeah, very impressive. An amazing performance for sure. But also, and we've just completed the discussion with her. I think it was a great chat. You know, someone who's very positive, positive influence on the sport, and really trying to inspire other. In particular, her the charity for which she raised funding through that run, which we talked about a little bit.
Yeah, Girls on the Run program. My kids are participants in it and have been in the past. What a great organization that she's partnered with. She's raised a ton of money, and maybe you guys could click on the bottom here inside of the show notes and help her out and get her over the $100,000 mark for fundraising. That'd be super special. We'd appreciate it if you helped her out and got her to that goal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for a good cause, and you know, I think she did her part of the work there, doing a crazy run in a crazy amount of time. And if you know Tara or like you know of her online, she has a very distinct way of running, which is she falls down sometimes, and she's pretty famous for these picture. That we were there, Brian, you were crewing. You brought your big rooster. I think that's a polite way to talk about the big rooster. But we had our friends also racing at Javelina, and there's someone who fell down in the cacti, and that was Tara. So I was worried about her on the AT, but yeah, all over the place. It looks extremely painful, but and she has a special message for people at the end, which is worth staying until the end. But I think it's not about not falling down, but it's about getting back up. And she's that type of person that no matter the adversity, no matter facing past failure, she will come back and she will come back stronger. That really shows strength of character, and you can also see that in our discussion.
Part of our required gear, Simon, I'm not sure if you remember, in Cocodona was a comb.
It was because
Um,
of her, yes.
it was to pull out cactus, right? But there was no comb big enough to pull out the cactus that she had in her neck and shoulder and arm that she just spilled into at Javelina 100 there. Yeah, great conversation. What a positive role model. Nothing but the best.
Yeah.
We'll obviously be keeping an eye on her. We so much appreciated her pulling over on the side of the highway and taking our call. and really diving deep into some of the logistics and just the stories around her 40 plus day attempt here and completion, successful completion of the Appalachian Trail. Congrats again, Tara. Um, Again, help her out with the Girls on the Run. We'd love to see that. And without further ado, here is Tara Dower. Hey, Tara, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Hey, I wanted to dive right in real quick because I'm a girl dad. I have a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old daughters. My 13-year-old kind of grew out of Girls on the Run. My
Hmm.
10-year-old is currently in it. She's in her second year. She's in her fourth grade year right now.
Wow.
Both of my kids have participated in it. They really enjoy it. And I live in Western Colorado. I just told you that like offline here, that I'm in Western Colorado. And we will do our 3 mile run in a place you're pretty familiar with. We're going to go up to Steamboat Middle School and go run our 3 mile run for Girls on the Run, which we've done for a
Oh,
couple of years now. And so it's super fun. It's like November 2nd or something right around there. So it's not too bad, too cold just yet. And Steamboat's always a great time, but we go right through the course of Run Rabbit Run, which I know you're
oh
super
yeah,
familiar with. But
yeah,
I really wanted to go back and talk about Girls on the Run in your initiative and why you picked it as a charity to raise money for.
yeah. Um, I really wanted this to be this FKT that I just did. I wanted it to be more than just like an FKT or like even just my FKT or the team's FKT. I wanted to have more of a impact than that. And so a goal of mine was just to inspire women and girls, um, in whatever way that was applicable to their life because I know I've benefited greatly from women mentors in my life, and I just wanted this to do the same for other people in whatever capacity it worked for them. And um, I think it just made sense to partner with Girls on the Run because one, it teaches young girls those important skills, social, emotional, not only teach them about running and show them that it is possible to run a 5K because a lot of those young girls, I know me, I didn't think it was possible to run 3 miles when I was in middle school. So it's important to like show them this is possible. There are things you can put your mind to and do. And I think it was a cool organization to partner with. They just very transparent, and they're making a big impact in young girls'
I
lives.
believe you raised roughly like $24,000, and I thought Ultra came out with an announcement as well. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so I have to check today, but at this point, I think it's like 46,000 that we've just raised, and then Ultra is going to match up to 45,000. So at this point, I'm hoping that we can get up to 55,000, or 54,000, because at that point we'd raise 100,000 in all. But we're almost there. We're getting there. But it's really cool because it hit 20,000 close to when I finished the trail. And then since the word's gotten out, a lot of people have resonated with that message, which is really cool, and have donated. I mean, that's what that 26,000 after I finished in just like the weeks that followed.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's just incredible. And kudos to Ultra for matching up to 45. That's quite an investment as well.
Oh my gosh, yeah, so cool.
Yeah, and kudos to you too. I think we there's been a lot of talk recently, but running is really just the tip of the iceberg, and being a positive role model for other people, like yourself, inspiring girls and women to run, but also just be better people. It's not about the running, it's not how far you go, how fast you go, but also it's showing strength of character. So we really appreciate this positivity in the community. So thank you for everything.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I've said, I've benefited so greatly from those role models, and it's just kind of like giving back to the community. It just seemed natural to do that.
We'll see
Anyway,
if we can help.
anyone specific in
Go ahead.
mind that you would wanna say, hey, you inspired me to be who I am today?
Yeah, I mean, they're probably tired by this point if they are listening to every podcast, but I've mentioned them every single one. But just, Jennifer Farr Davis, who held the record before me, and Heather Onish Anderson, who had the self supported record for a long time, and just, the typical Courtney Dauwalter. I think every woman has been extremely inspired by her, and Jasmine Paris for sure as well.
I wanted to talk about um, Steamboat Springs, Run Rabbit Run. I don't know if you recall this years ago when you were kind of come up. And do you recall this?
Yeah.
Okay, you do. So years ago,
Yeah.
you reached out to Adam and you were looking for a pacer, and we
Hmm.
connected somehow through my friend Adam McRoberts.
Hmm.
And you
Yeah, we
were
had
like
a we
coming
had
from
a video
Virginia.
call.
Yeah, you were coming from Virginia, and we were going to try to figure out how to get you pacing. And what I took away from that is that you were very serious and confident. You kept saying that you're going to be the tip of the spear. You were like making sure that the pacers could keep up and do all the work. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But my question resonates to that is like, where does that confidence come from? And and where did that transpire from? And is it always there? Is it natural, or is it just in running alone, or is it another aspect of your life as well?
Yeah, I don't remember the specifics of our conversation, but I think I was just really nervous about finding crew for that race because you can only have a pacer for pretty much like the mile through town. But I remember crew was really important because a lot of the people that are going to come in and help, we didn't know that area that well,
Mm-hmm.
and I was just nervous about them finding their way to like Dry Creek and then or Dry Lake and just down back to town, and just wasn't really sure about all of that. And I'm an anxious person, and so it's all about the fear of the unknown. So I just wasn't sure what to expect when I was out there. I guess to your question about you said about confidence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I really took away that you were super confident in your ability to run at the tip of the spear, and you weren't familiar with the course or the
Yeah.
area, and you're coming from Virginia to the high country of the mountains. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Obviously, you
That's
can perform at
that's
that level
really
now. But,
I'm glad you took away that I was confident because a lot of the times I don't think I exude confidence at all. I don't think that's not my strong suit. Uh, I think I exude more like, my friends might say otherwise, but nervous energy. I think maybe it's just like making sure everything is set and good and like I know what to expect. And I mean, these things are really unpredictable. So, uh, I think that like messes with my head sometimes, especially traveling all the way out to Colorado. Um, and I just felt like I needed somebody who knew that area really well. But yeah, I'm glad that you took away from that I was confident because I don't think I
Yeah, to
felt
me it
that
sounds like
confident.
fake it until you make it
Oh
almost.
yeah.
Like you inside don't feel confident, but what we hear or see is like, oh, she's so confident. She's got to take
Oh,
care of business.
that's so good. I'm so glad that came away. You came away from that, Brian.
the fake it till you make it, though, that's a great point, Simon, because it kind of goes towards the next question. You started on like August 12th, and 10 days into it, you were about 100 miles behind, like 108 miles behind the
Hmm.
course record. And, um, and, and that's like a big hole to get out of. And
Hmm.
were you using the fake it till you make it idea? How are you digging yourself out of this hole to keep the motivation going? Like it's just so it's so unfathomable to me to think like 10 days down the line I'm 100 miles behind. Like that's 10 miles a day that you essentially lost somewhere along the way.
Yeah. I mean, just going that direction, I knew I'd be behind Carl Sabe to some
Hmm.
degree because he was coming towards the end of his hike, so he was able to push a little harder. You don't want to push it too hard, especially in the whites and Maine, which are the toughest part of the trail. You don't want to push it too much, otherwise you'll break yourself. So I kind of knew
Hmm.
I would be far behind. I didn't know exactly how far that would be. So when I figured out it was I don't know if I knew exactly how far behind I was, but eventually when I did figure out I was really far behind in whatever degree that was, I remember feeling pretty anxious about that. But I also just kind of, I think I just let that leave my head because I knew that there's other records I could go for, like the Sobo
Mm-hmm.
record, Southbound record, or the women's
Mm-hmm.
record. Um, but luckily, I had my crew there, and I'll say this till I'm blue in the face. I've said this everywhere, but I mean, they're the reason we got the record. And I view this more as a team effort. I definitely, if it was up to me, I would not give myself the amount of miles that Rascal, my crew chief, gave me in order to catch up and get the record. I didn't. I mean, her just giving it to me, I was very apprehensive. I mean, doing, anywhere from like she would give me anywhere from the 56 to like 60 miles a day, and that was like day after day after day. Once we got pretty much into Connecticut, she was just we were catching up at that point, and so I mean, it's truly a team record, and I'm doing like all this media blitz, and I'm talking about it, and I'm trying to give the credit where it's due, but it's truly, I mean, it's a team effort for sure. And without them, without pacers, without the crew, without people outside social media, I mean, giving us encouragement, it just wouldn't have been possible. I mean, even my coach and mentor Carl Meltzer, I mean, he just was helping us with our daily mileage and helping us get back to that goal. So I didn't really have, if again, there's not a lot of confidence there. And I don't think also in a record like that, you can really look ahead that much, especially being the one that's doing it. You can't look ahead because it's so long. And if you look ahead, it just seems so daunting. So I just really trusted my crew to know what they're doing. And even though it hurt and it was really hard every single day, I knew like myself and I knew my body, and just to focus on that next mile, that next day, and just take it day by day.
I'm curious, I've never done an FKT, and for people who are not as familiar as executing that, because it's obvious it's supported, can you tell us a little bit more like the scope of your team? How many people behind you? What do they do? What's the kind of routine that you get into?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so two people that were with me the entire time was my crew chief Rascal, who I met on my 2019 through hike, and then my mom Debbie, who is my mother, who I met at birth. um, but yeah, so they're with me the entire time. I am currently in my van doing this podcast, and Rascal was driving the van, and my mom was driving my Durango, my Dodge Durango. Um, and luckily, I have a lot of contacts. I mean, I've been involved with the Appalachian Trail community for nearly 10 years, and with the ultra running community for the last, was it 3 years? So I had a lot of people who were interested in helping at some degree. So in all, I had about 40 people come in and out. So maybe it was for an hour, or maybe it was for like JP Giblin, my teammate, my ultra teammate. He came out for a month, which was an incredible help. Um, so like, yeah, I'm just really thankful for, all of the support, and the day to day, really, it was just waking up. Um, Rascal would feed me, because I mean, we really took this on as a supported FKT. I mean, everything about it was supported. And I see some comments online where people are like, well, she didn't have to carry your stuff, or she didn't have to do this or that. I'm like, well, yeah, like if it's supported and I have people that are willing to help, I would want to make it as easy as possible on myself, and for the crew. And so, yeah, so Rascal would feed me. I would prepare my feet by putting Luco tape on, and I'd get started, and I'd run for about anywhere from like, I don't know, like 17. Some nights it was like 20 hours. And then I would get to the van or the tent, and somebody would feed me. I'd have my feet cleaned, and then I'd get to sleep for about 5 hours.
Yeah. And it's a pretty long effort. It's 40 days straight, well, with a little bit of night. Um, Do you think you reached a level where you were semi-sustainable and you could have gone on, or you were slowly but surely degrading and you were pretty happy to see that it was finished at the end?
Yeah, it's a funny thing with these record attempts, especially ones these this long. Your body adapts to it. Your body breaks down, and then all of a sudden, it's the craziest thing where it just starts adapting, and even just getting stronger. So, like, if I had to go on for, I didn't want to because I had a 129-mile push at the end, so that was pretty grueling. If I had to go on, I probably could have kept going on, but I think I was also mentally preparing for it to be over. So I think I was, by the end, I think I was like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah, and but then you have to readapt to normal life reality, right? Which must be
Yeah.
quite a shock, going out from this routine, 40 days being such a long time to,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. It's taken a while to like, recover in multiple ways from that. I would say, I keep saying it's like the second endurance endeavor. I mean, having this amount of attention, I'm just not used to, but also like going through media, and then
Mm.
also the recovery process just takes um, a toll. I haven't been sleeping that well, and that's just been hard to like figure out and how to get my body back to like that routine of sleeping for more than 5 hours.
Hey, Brian, we're the media, by the way. Isn't that a nice compliment?
I
I
We're
don't think.
enjoy
legit.
I enjoy doing podcasts and with like ultra runners. It's a lot of fun because you guys already understand, and usually I get some really good questions from y'all. So no
I mean,
pressure.
what I understand is that I don't understand it. I think I know enough about running and trail running and these long effort to be like, this is insane. Both the total duration, but also the rhythm at which you did it is extremely impressive. Um,
Thanks. I
and
appreciate
you're
that.
you're also kind of notorious for falling down a lot. So I don't know if
Yeah.
that has happened on the AT. Hopefully not too much,
It
but it
did. I
must be
saw some bloody
technical
knees.
also.
I saw some
Yeah.
bloody knees. So tell us about the bloody knees.
Yeah. I mean, it was kind of natural. I knew it was going to come eventually where I was going to fall or something, an accident would happen. But yeah, I mean, it was pretty much every day I would fall at least once. And it was usually on the easier uh, terrain. You know how it is. It's usually just when you're not even thinking about it, picking up your feet where you fall. So yeah, I fell a lot, and usually it was very violent. Luckily, it wasn't ever FKT ruining. Never ended
Mm.
any FKTs, but it was violent and scary. I mean, falling. My job. We called me the race car, and the crew was the pit crew. They were doing all of this stuff to keep me going, and what I was doing, my job was to eat and run. And so if I would have fallen and not been able to run, I would be the reason why the entire team would stop, and that would weigh heavy on me, knowing like I was the reason why this didn't work out.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes just a small wrong step can really, like a bad fall. A, a violent fall is usually fine, but a bad fall where you just tweak something and then serious injuries where it can be months or even more than that. And I mean, there's been famous case professional runner with pretty bad injuries that ruined their career, and of course that could happen to you after 40 days nonstop. It's well nonstop. Well, you have breaks, but
Yeah. I mean,
it's
it
scary
was
for
a
sure.
constant fear of mine, especially towards the end there where we were getting closer to the end, and I never allowed myself to think I was going to get the record. But just knowing
Mm.
like the end was coming no matter what, and I wanted it to be a good result, like I was even more afraid to fall and then,
Yeah.
go come this far and for it to end the way it would.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you even if you made it 39 days and you said you had what 120 miles in the last day, you can still fall and hurt yourself there, and then it can be over at that point, which
Yeah.
is it's like
Yeah.
you'd
That's
rather
really
fall in the
why,
first 10 meters, right? So
yeah. That's really why I didn't allow myself to get to the point where I was thinking like, oh, I've got this record in a bag. Because I mean, you guys know it's famous like the race isn't over till it's over.
Hmm.
Anything could happen. I mean, I've seen people, I've been passed in the last quarter mile of a race. Like I know too well, everyone knows very well, like anything could happen during these things. And
Yeah, I mean,
it's a long record. I mean, it's so long. Anything could happen.
and you can't just, you can't just do a new attempt next week because it didn't work out
No.
this time. Like that's, you don't have so many of those lined up, so you made the most
No.
out of it, which is
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic. I've also been passing the last quarter miles, so I finished 87 instead of 86,
It
sadly.
hurts.
It
It
hurts so
hurts.
much, yes.
Tara, I just was running and I was thinking about our conversation here, and I actually came to the conclusion that I made two mortgage payments while you were out on the trail. I think my mortgage is due on the 15th, and I think I made two mortgage payments. So just to put that in
Wow.
perspective, right? Like that's just like insane to me. Um, why August? Why August 12th? Like, how did you pick that? I mean, 40 days is such a huge weather window that you can't even predict the weather like 40 days down the road. So, like, what
Mhm.
was the impetus behind August 12th?
Well, I mean, it was going to be July, but then I got picked for Hard Rock, and so I did Hard Rock July 11th, and um, knew I would have to do about 3 to 4 weeks of recovery before doing the Appalachian Trail.
Mhm.
So that was the thought behind that. As far as the weather window goes, we actually were planning on starting on the 9th of August, and there's going to be a bad rainstorm coming through. And in Maine, there's a lot of river and stream crossings that can get, a little sketchy. So I just wanted to mitigate any of that. So the rain came. It wasn't that bad, but the rain came, and then we kind of let the rivers relax a little bit, and then we went out there. Also, Baxter State Park is where Mount Katahdin is.
Mhm.
And so we had to kind of coordinate. It's a little hard to get camping in there, and it's a little hard to coordinate a start time with it being in Baxter State Park. They see a lot of travel from people in there, so they try to limit as much as they can and control it. So that was a little difficult, but once we got our permits, it was ended up being the 12th.
Any other permitting issues that kind of happened along the way that you're trying to navigate, other than the one at the start at Baxter Park?
Yeah, there's the Smokies, but I mean, like I said, I did not know what was going on behind the scenes. I was just traveling on the trail, so the
Mhm.
crew was taking care of that. They got a permit for the Smokies, but I don't know what that looked like.
So the weather window was a little bit of concern at the start. Was there any severe weather out on the course? Was it like super hot, super stormy anywhere along the way?
I like that you said course. That makes it feel almost like a little more manageable. Not that races are manageable at all, because they're not. But
Sure.
yeah, yeah, um, yeah. So like Southern Maine and New Hampshire are the toughest states on the trail. Just really tough terrain and navigating rocks, and the Appalachian Trail, they don't really believe, the East Coast in general, they don't really believe in switchbacks. So and you end up
Mhm.
just kind of hiking straight up a mountain instead of zigzagging up it. Um, so mixed with that and with rocks and roots, and it, I had to slow my pace down to about 2 miles per hour, but it was an added factor of the weather. We got not very lucky in southern Maine and New Hampshire. It ended up um, not quite stormy on us, but it was wet the entire time. It rained, and it was just dark and dreary, which aren't conditions you want for New Hampshire. It's very exposed out there. So yeah, I that was pretty bad. But once we got literally the last mountain after, like, leaving the White Mountain National Forest, things cleared up. It was kind of crazy.
Mm.
Things just cleared all the way up. I was like, wow, this is ironic. And so we exited, it cleared up. I got actual dirt trail that I could run on somewhat easily. And we had a great weather window pretty much until the very end. There was 2 mornings that we had rain, and that was it. Like, we just had really great weather the entire time. There were a handful of days where it was really, really hot and I got just overheated. And that was really difficult to manage, being out there and being so exposed. But like I said, that was just a handful of days.
Yeah, I appreciate your comment about the East Coast not believing in switchback. The way I say it is nicer. I just say that the trails are older than the invention of switchback, but it's so true. It's basically, where's the summit? We're going that way, and it really doesn't matter what's in the way. I think people on the West Coast don't realize that, because the elevation of the mountain on the East Coast are not very intimidating. I think what, Washington is 6 or 7 thousand feet. Like, it seems like nothing,
Yeah.
but you go up, and you some of these running downhill would be pretty difficult.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
Actually, where do you pass in the White Mountain? Do you go through the Presidential Traverse, or it's more? Yeah,
Yeah. So you go through, you, you start around like Mount Moriah, the Wildcats, and then you go up through Pinkham Notch, the Presidentials, then you go down, what was that, Crawford Notch, and then oh yeah, and then you go like through Zealand, and then up through, like Mount Lafayette and Franconia Notch, and then you descend down, and you do the Kinsmans, and then you descend, and you do, Mount Musalak, and that is the traverse.
okay.
I don't know
Yeah,
how
I
many
used
miles
to be
that
in the
is, but
Northeast, so
it feels so long.
yeah.
Oh, you did? Where did you live?
Well, I was Boston. That was absolutely not exciting mountain wise, but the Whites is where you go when you're in Boston and you want to go. Well, trail running, I don't know, trail power hiking. Let's call it like that.
Yeah, yeah, really. Yeah, it's I was with a couple locals out there and we were joking about that.
Yeah, and so you've hiked also the AT, right? And that's where you have your, like, I guess it's your trail name. Is it Candy Mama or something like
Yeah,
that?
Candy Mama.
Yeah.
Yeah, I hiked the trail from Georgia to Maine going northbound in 2019.
So how did you feel? Because there must have been a bunch of them, right? How did you feel running in the other direction, not having a big backpack, and be like, "Sup?"
Yeah, yeah, I saw a lot of through hikers, and most, I would say about, especially the northbound ones, they kind of knew what was going on. About
Yeah.
half of them did. So it was exciting to see them. Um, the Sobo northbound hikers ended around Vermont, and then the Sobo hikers were very dispersed through like Virginia, even. Like, somebody started super early. But yeah, I would say like through Virginia, I, saw some through hikers. It was cool to see them. I mean, I'm always so like excited to talk to through hikers and ask them how their hike's going. The
Mm.
Appalachian Trail is hard any way you do it. It's difficult.
I heard that taking only 40 days is making it extra difficult, even
Oh
if you
yeah.
have support and people say, "Oh, you had support." Uh,
Yeah. Yeah, I love those comments. It's like, yeah. I had
yeah,
it.
you can
Somebody said
automatically say it's not someone who's done it. Like, that's pretty sure.
somebody said I did it on easy mode because I had a crew. I love that one. That one made me chuckle.
Oh
Oh
man,
boy.
Tara,
But the
what?
experience must be very different, right? Because I feel that I've never done any of the through hike for, just lack of time, but it feels that the big attraction for it would sure be the trail, but also the community. And you're kind of
Hmm.
following your kind of family, or however you call it, but your family was your crew basically, which is a little
Yeah.
different.
Yeah, and I had a way different experience than, my trail family did, which were the people who were in my crew. They hung out a lot more than I did, so I hung out with like one of them pretty much at a time, unless it was at night and we were at the van. So they called it their trail family. I think I just hung out with individual people throughout the trail. Um, yeah, yeah, We had a little trail family out there. We called it Team Chump Change.
Tara, what are maybe some of the not so typical differences between your 2019 Nobo and this southbound attempt or completion? I mean, they're just different beasts, but like, what are some of the takeaways that maybe that aren't obvious?
Um, yeah, that's a good question. That aren't obvious.
How long did
I mean,
2019 take?
it took 5 months and 10 days.
Mm,
So I was supporting myself. Pretty much everything about it was different. The only thing that was the same was the fact that I was um, on the same trail. But I would say
In the
pretty
other
much,
direction.
yeah, in the other direction. I would say like pretty much everything about it was different. It was a completely different experience. People on Facebook or whatever say, "Did you do it for enjoyment?" And I think like, or did you even see anything or enjoy it? And I think like that's another thing that was common between the two times I did the trail is I did enjoy it. I enjoyed it in different ways. I think I enjoyed it typically on the through hike because it's just you're really immersing yourself in the community and nature. And not that I did that here in this 40-day attempt, but I enjoyed it in a different way. I found that like, I spent a lot of time on trail. I spent more more quality time on trail than I did in 2019 because the only time I left trail was because we were forced to by a ranger in New York. We were forced to go to a hotel and sleeping at the trailhead. So other than that, like I was on trail for 40 days. On the through hike, like
mm,
obviously it's taking longer, 5 months, 10
mm-hmm,
days. But there were times where we left to go into a town and take a 0 day where we didn't do any
mm-hmm.
miles and I slept in a bed and I relaxed. But every day I was moving on the trail. So yeah, I'd say pretty much
Did,
everything was different about it.
yeah, did you? That's also interesting. You said that you had good quality time doing the FKT attempt. Now I'm curious, how much do you feel like you're like we gotta go, you're in a rush, despite it being 40 days, or you always feel like, I have time to just talk with people, hiker through hiker, and I can just do my little things, but still
Yeah,
be
I
vigilant about keep going.
I would say like I would find ways to make quality time out there and, slow down a little bit, not physically slow down, but, I would still talk to people. I would pass them and keep moving, but I would talk to them as I was moving.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of understood at that point, like, oh, we're not chatting here. I I never really stopped at a overlook, but a handful of times. There was one time in Virginia where it was a beautiful sunrise, and I just stopped on this overlook and just watched it. Um, yeah, I think you find different ways of slowing down, and that doesn't necessarily mean you like physically slow down.
Hmm. Yeah, kind of a mindset a little bit more, right? And taking
Yeah,
time to
yeah.
enjoy. You were filming, if I am not mistaken.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
did like daily updates. I'll start my daily updates on YouTube here soon, but I also did like some Instagram reels and TikToks where I did like daily updates. And that was easy to do. I mean, I'm going the same pace and trying to like be mindful of where I'm stepping, but I'm able to do like a fun little minute video.
Yeah, I mean, for filming myself, my race, it's not that it's fit for me. It's not that it's physically difficult, but sometimes you just don't have the energy, or you don't. I don't know. You don't know what to say, or you're like, well, it's been 5 days in a row. I'm saying exactly the same thing. Which, oh, my feet hurt from the blister. It's
Yeah.
cold, and like, well, that was the update, guys. Like, you want to be interesting, but at the same time, sometimes it is what it is. So it's
Yeah.
impressive that you could keep doing that for 40 days.
Yeah, I mean, I've used that as, kind of a therapist in a way for different races, just talking it out. I don't want to like burden a pacer or another runner with my woes. So sometimes it's nice to just talk to the camera and
Mm.
cry to the camera and be honest. And people love it too on YouTube. People love the honesty.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's definitely my angle too. And even myself, I know that sounds like kind of egocentric, but I appreciate watching my videos sometimes. I'm like, oh yeah, like I had forgotten how bad it got at night, like how negative I was. And I
Yeah.
listened to what I say. I was like, dude, you were so negative. Wow, like chill the fuck out. uh,
Yeah. Yeah, you kind of you realize like maybe what you could do better, or like just looking back it's
yeah.
like, oh, like sometimes I look at races and I'm like, that really wasn't that bad, was it? And then I look at the video, I'm like, oh wait, yeah, no, I was in the pain cave. I remember it was bad.
Yeah, something I've started doing, I think it was earlier this year, is I always kind of have a goal in terms of fueling, and I'm thinking, oh, I'm gonna do 300 calories, let's say, per hour. That's my goal, and I feel that I kind of do that. But I start actually recording it and
Mm.
realizing that sometimes I felt I was fueling well, but when I add the number, I was not doing well. Then 3 4 hours later, I start just being sleepy. I was like, now I know why. Like this was fueling. I thought I was doing it well, but now I have the proof I was not
Yep.
doing it well. And it's kind of problem
Yeah.
solving a little bit.
Oh, that's a good method. Sometimes I do the same thing. I'm like, I just forget to fuel. I'm like, why am I so grumpy right now? Because I'm not
Yeah.
eating.
Yeah.
I
Hey,
got
can I
quite the
ask a
opposite. Yeah, I got quite the opposite. I never have an issue with not fueling. I just eat all the time.
you're
Really?
just grumpy sometimes
Yeah,
though.
but I'm just grumpy sometimes too. That's right.
Yeah. But
Oh.
Brian kind of bounced back. Like that's the thing. Like you see him and you're like, Brian is not doing so well. And then next thing you know, he's there. I was like, oh, I guess he's fine now. So always scary. Especially Brian Leadville, you always scare me. Every single time we cross each other, I was like, he
I
doesn't seem to
know.
be doing so well. And then you're there at the end, and you're smiling, and you're doing
Yeah,
9 buckle.
but I'm getting
Wow.
closer and closer to the cutoff at the 30 hours. Like like I don't. I one more year. I only have like 34 minutes left to in this
Um,
window. Yeah.
sounds like you
You,
get it every time.
I Leadville's been really good to me, but let's get back to the Appalachian Trail.
Yeah. No, I do have a curiosity question. I'm sure you've been asked a question like that, so sorry if it's kind of basic, but how many shoes do you go through in something like that?
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to ask Rascal, who's my crew chief. I don't know how many shoes I went through. Um, officially, oh man, I think I said a number on another podcast. I mean, it would seem that maybe it was somewhere between like 5 to 7 pairs
Oh,
of
that's
shoes.
reasonable.
Like going through them, like I had shoes out there, but they weren't working for my feet at the time. Like a lighter weight, like carbon plated shoe just wasn't the move. So I'd have to get like a heavier duty, more cushioned shoe for the rocks. So like I would say like actually going through about like 5 to 7, and 7 seems like a lot.
Yeah, but
Tar- yeah.
you don't want to have them be used up. Like even though you could probably use them in the future, in the middle of that effort, you want something that is still, the cushioning is still good and relatively fresh.
Oh my
And then
gosh,
sure you can
yeah.
use them in training later, but
It's it's funny how you can like feel the cushion, like you put a shoe on, you're going all day long, all day. So it's like I'm so sensitive to like, oh, this one's been used a lot more than like this pair I just
Mhm.
came off of.
What was your
well, I
go-to
heard some
shoe
people.
for from Ultra? Was it the Olympus?
Yeah, the Olympus ended up being like my favorite out there. Um, I also use the Temp, but honestly, I wish I had the Olympus in the White Mountains where I used the Temp just because of that cushion. Once I transitioned to the Olympus in Pennsylvania during like most rocky part of the trail, it just made such a difference. I really flew by on those mountains, and those rocks. I just flew through them.
Were they a sponsor of the actual thing? Because it's 40 days, right? So you probably need some funding to do an effort like that. Did you have like
Yeah,
sponsor?
they are my shoe sponsor, but they didn't they financially supported it to a point, but I ended up giving that money to my crew.
Uh-huh.
But I won Run Rabbit the year prior, and I got a really nice check. So I used that money I saved up. I worked really hard at REI over the winter and after Run Rabbit, and saved up the Run Rabbit money and used that for the record.
I was actually that answered another question, and that's me. Sorry, I should have done my homework. But so you're working basically full time at REI in the meantime, and or in between races. Is that what you do?
Yeah, I was. Now I'm not anymore because my life looks a little different now that I've done this record. Um, I think it's just gonna more opportunities are gonna come my way, which is really exciting.
And very well deserved. Very happy for you. I think there's so many great people that are struggling to make a living in running, and you have your YouTube channel, you have your presence, and you're an incredible athlete. And then having to juggle that with actually working must be pretty difficult.
Yeah. When I was doing that, it was definitely difficult, but um, I was thankful that I was able to do it too, in those conditions, like being able to work and run. I don't think that's a reality for a lot of people, so I was thankful.
Tara, my experience, is not near yours. I've done like a 200 miler, a couple of them, and and one stage race. But where I'm going with this is, it even in the shorter time frame, like 5 days or so, it became very routine. I kind of like got into a structure and a rhythm, and it sounded like you did as well. Like you had the wake up plan, you run all day, you probably saw your crew throughout the day, you ate some food, lunch, snacks, all the things, and a big meal at the evening before you fell asleep for 4 or 5 hours before doing it all over again tomorrow. And you get into the routine, and it's so basically like singular focused, right? Just moving forward and making sure you're on the trail and moving forward and moving forward. And then you're like snap back into reality, and everyone's reaching out to you. Everyone wants to hear the story. Everyone's, like how does that chaos work for you, and how has it been? I mean, how are you adjusting to it?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. I don't think it's nice to get that question, and yeah, I think I know that a lot of thru hikers get post trail depression and post trail blues. Um, because you get used to this. It's not simple life, but you get used to doing the same thing every day, which looks pretty idyllic almost, even though that comes with a lot of challenges. As a thru hiker, you get used to this lifestyle and being around good people, and doing something that you've chosen to do, which is just hike, and it's pretty awesome. Um, and then you come back to society, or society, and you come back to like regular life, and there's so many, there's so much that comes with regular life, and it can feel overwhelming for a lot of people. And I would kind of echo that for this FKT, especially because I had a crew with me and I wasn't doing a lot, of planning. All I was doing was running and eating and spending time with good people. And yeah, I was hurting and I was sore, and my knees and my ankles and my back hurt, but it was pretty awesome. I'm pretty lucky to have spent 40 days out there. And there comes like that post trail depression and blues, that comes with any through hike or any, time on the trail. And I definitely feel that. And I miss being, I miss being in the outdoors and in the mountains every single day, being surrounded by people who are like-minded, who love the trails as well. Um, and I, it's also like a little overwhelming to go from being on trail to just being like out there doing this thing. And, you know, I'm not checking social media. I am checking social media when I'm using the bathroom. If anyone follows me on Instagram, you saw me reposting something or doing a story. It was probably when I was sitting on a log using the bathroom. That was my only time to just relax to myself. So I was checking social media, but then like, you know, I didn't know what was going on in the world. People weren't like looking at me, and, you know, I wasn't getting all this attention, because right now it just seems like this influx of attention and media and a lot of people. And I'm very blessed because it's giving a lot of attention to women in endurance, and it's giving a lot of attention to girls on the run. And I'm thankful for that. I'm very thankful for that. But I think it's like twofold in that it feels overwhelming coming from something that just was so simple and almost anonymous to like now just being on full display for people. Yeah. So that's kind of how I'm feeling. Also, recovery is okay. I mean, I'm looking at my feet right now, and they're just like hard calluses and just weird looking holes in my feet. And my mind is also slowly getting better, but there's a lot of brain fog involved with an FKT, and just trying to like recover my brain and my mind. Yeah, that's pretty much it. It's a lot.
Yeah, I think that's something we've all experienced to some extent, but the longer the effort, the bigger the cliff will be in terms of changing. You know, you really got into your routine. I try myself to. There's always something that I'll have been missing a lot when I'm on trail. That once I'm able to like be out of the adventure, I miss the adventure, but I'm so glad that. And like an example that people almost say it's a cliche at this point is I will always around mile 80, if I do 100 mile, I'll say I'll miss Nora. I miss my wife. And you know, when I'll be done with the race, we'll be sleeping and hugging. I'll be like, you know, I wish I was out there, but at the same time, I'm kind of happy to be here. And sometimes it can be small things. It can be any true hiker probably has that. Like if they were pumping the water, although maybe now it's better. It's like, I'm so glad to have running tap water. And when you take a shower, I'm so glad to have warm water to take a shower. Like the little things are like, you know,
Or
that
toilet.
part.
A
Toilet,
toilet's
yes.
really nice. Not having to find a good stable log to use the bathroom on is really nice.
Yeah, but you're probably like a professional at it right now. Like you probably like could spot a log like in the forest. You're like, that's the one. That's the one.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, and then there's the flip side of that, especially as a guy. Like I'll go to a meeting at work, and I was like, you know, I kind of need to pee right now. And normally I would just, you know, go on this side, but in the middle of meeting, you're not really allowed to do that, or have, you know, runny nose. I was like, I want to just not rocket it, but maybe not in the conference room. Like, got to get used to these things again.
Yeah,
Takes a few days.
This might be TMI, but I had to get my body used to not just peeing whenever I wanted to. I could just, I mean, the trail is pretty like desolate for most of it. I mean, you're not seeing people all the time. So I'd look around, but I drop my pants and just pee right there. Like, I mean, I literally had to get my body used to like, okay, we can't just go whenever. You have to wait. Sometimes
you have to hold
wait.
it and move to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Well, Tara,
That's actually,
congratulations. Yeah, that's just an amazing feat. I think I got like a sort of like a weird follow-up question along the lines of like, if you weren't on the trail, if you weren't the thru hiker that you are, if you weren't the ultra runner that you are, what would Tara Dower be doing? Like, what would you be doing with your life?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think like I've always enjoyed I've been a creative person for a long time, so I make videos on YouTube, but I think I would just lean into that more and lean more into like the creative side of me, and maybe do more photography. Obviously, that's hard to make a living off of photography. Like that's not super easy. I recognize that, but I would try. I would try to make that work. That would definitely be something I'd love to do.
It can't be harder than trying to make a living as a runner.
Oh, you're so right. Yeah. I just thought of that as soon as you like mentioned you're about to say that. I was like, oh yeah. I guess I could make it work.
Yeah, but in today's era, like being a runner, if you want to make a living out of this, I think the combo of having a social media presence, making movies, and the running is a good combination, because just running is, there's really just a few people that can make a career out of that, and you just have a small few years where you're at the
Hmm.
level where a
Yeah,
company would actually care about, paying you enough to be full time. But
yeah,
you have a presence online, and which you do, like your channel is really good. I mean, a lot of it is Appalachian Trail related and true hiking related, which are great movies and great content. um, then people recognize you, people appreciate you, and I think
hmm,
that makes for a more long lasting career, or career is a big term, I guess, but kind of a way of living trail, and having some earnings from that.
yeah,
And it's
absolutely.
more sustainable long term, because you don't have
And
to
it,
always be the best eventually.
yeah, it's also just fun creatively for me.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've always enjoyed that. So if I didn't have this kind of outlet, it would be hard to just do running.
Yeah, yeah, and you can be yourself, right? I mean, that's where the honesty that you were describing before. You can be yourself, and you will create what you enjoy creating, which I think you can feel that. You can feel if the person is more, trying to be an influencer,
Hmm.
and like being with big brand. And I mean, there's things you're supposed to do if you're a running influencer, and I haven't seen you do these things, which is good, by the way. There's like traditional
Thanks.
ways to do it, and then there's the I'm running, I'm having so much fun out there on trail. I want to share that with people, which is contagious, and people can really relate to that and
Oh yeah,
appreciate that.
yeah. I love connecting with people on social media, and especially YouTube. I've had some people that have just seen the progression from through hiker to baby ultra marathon athlete to FKTer, and it's just fun to share that with these people.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a little bit like that. I had known you without knowing you, or known of you from the Appalachian Trail stuff, which was like way older. And then at some point, I looked for Run Rabbit Run stuff, and then I think you did 20 hours. I can't remember what time you did, and I was like, "Well, this is like, this is hardcore." And eventually, I made the connection. Oh, it's the same person. Wow, that's uh,
Yeah,
that's something.
yeah. It's really cool to just kind of, it's like a step stool, and it's fun to
Mm.
think like, okay, what's the next step after this Appalachian Trail? I want to keep going. Obviously, I'm going to give myself a lot of time to recover, but it's just fun to kind of ponder what could be next.
That's a
So, I
great
mean,
segue
I
to
think
what
we
is,
have
yeah,
to ask though,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
I
yeah.
mean, it's such a cliche, and I don't like asking that, because for me, it kind of reduced, like, okay, you did that, but now what? But curious where we have to ask. I'm
It's
sorry.
been 15
Oh,
days, Tara. What's next? Like it's been 15
Exactly, it's been a
days.
long
Yeah.
time.
I
How
don't
do you stay
know.
relevant?
I just like to do things that excite me, and I
Mhm.
don't know. It's kind of cool. It's like, well, there's just so many things that excite me. I'm just like playing with ideas, and um, right now, all I see in my future is just enjoying, because I'm on my way to Colorado right now. So just going to Colorado and enjoying the trails there is what's next, and eating a lot of ice cream and sleeping a lot.
Well, we appreciate your time, Tara. I don't want to keep you any longer. I know you got some miles to burn in the van there, and
Yeah.
but
I have about 2 hours to the Cracker Barrel I'm staying at, so I'll be driving probably till like 9 p.m., which is perfect. Just get
that's
to
just
the
a
Cracker Barrel and go to
that's a
right to bed.
that's just a subtle plug.
Yeah. Cracker Barrels, if no one knows, they do allow you to sleep in their parking lots, and
Yeah,
it's so clutch.
yeah, and you get a nice breakfast in the morning, right?
Exactly. Yeah. If if they're open, I usually get out before like 6, but like I think they open at 7 a.m. So maybe I'll sleep in and just get a breakfast.
Mm, there you go.
Yeah.
Congrats on just an epic performance. I mean, it's already in the headlines that it's the performance of the year. It's just amazing. I mean, the year's not even over, but I don't know what else could top it at this point. But
We'll see. I
anyway,
mean, that is so exciting. Anything could happen. I mean, women are on this like burner right now. It's really cool. It's really exciting to see what
mhm.
happens.
Yeah, you guys are on a roll. I mean, this is very true what you're saying, and I think I heard you speak that your position is that women have a distinct advantage in these longer events, and you kind of you're kind of proving it. So no argument here. That's for
Yeah.
sure. And
Yeah.
I'll echo Brian. Congratulate. It's absolutely incredible and amazing. But also for me, that the aspect beyond just like the running itself, which we should absolutely celebrate, but being a positive role model for
Mm.
for other girls getting into the sport and having their own adventure. It's not always breaking world record that I'm sure you're recommending to other, but pushing your own limits, living adventure, gaining confidence, even though you yourself are not confident in yourself, which we've learned. I think this is absolutely amazing, and I'm wishing you all the best. You're right. I think, an accomplishment like that, and a personality that is so positive like that will really bring you a lot of opportunity, and hopefully you get to have this creative freedom also to do whatever the heck you want and just enjoy it. It's well
Yeah.
deserved.
Thank you so much. You just gassed me up a lot. I'm ready to drive. I'm ready to go now.
I got one last question, Tara, before I let you go. It's related to like the beginning of the conversation and what Simon was just talking about, the girls on the run, being a positive role model. My daughters are in the program currently.
Hmm.
They see dad who runs 100 milers and finishes mid pack. Like they're kind of over that, right? So what's your message to my daughters about the possibilities?
Yeah, I would say like something that's always reigned true for me is like I've kept this in my head since I started doing FKTs in 2020 and ultra races, but just thinking like you never know if you don't try. Like don't be afraid to make like a really ambitious goal and don't be afraid to go for it. I think a lot of people are afraid to fail, and I've failed a lot in my history. I mean, just in life in general, but like definitely in ultra races and in FKTs, I failed a lot, and I don't think we should be afraid of failure because it just adds more to our experience, um, and we learn from it, and it makes us a more diverse person. So I would say, like, you never know if you can do this goal if you don't try, and don't be afraid of failure.
That's perfect. Thank you so much for that. I will
Yeah.
pass that sentiment on to them for sure. I will also put the Girls on the Run, your link into the
Mm-hmm.
show
Yeah.
notes, and hopefully we could get some a little more traction and get you up over that $100,000 mark.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that'd be great. Thank you so much.
Thanks again for your time. Safe travels, and we'll catch up to you soon, Tara.
Yeah. Thank you.